Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with the daily technical update. It is Tuesday the 24th of March. This video is for educational purpose only. There's no recommendation advice whatsoever intended. So let's kick it off with just to recap what happened in the US last night. We have the semiconductor industry sector that actually started out quite nicely and then was once again up testing 345 here on the semiconductor ETF as illustrated. It spiked above the cloud, spiked above the 55 moving average, but it couldn't hold on and then did slide back. Yes, it did close higher than the previous day, Friday, but still it was rejected there. So that is a bit of a worry, to say the least, that it can't really push higher there. Another industry that actually did quite well yesterday was the oil service industry. As we can see here, it's still in a bullish trend, and I think that we could see higher levels in the coming weeks, because I don't think this turmoil with the oil sector or the oil crude oil is over. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Here we have the oil and explorations, the bigger ones, still in a bull trend. Looks a little bit toughish, but you can see it's stretched, but there's no divergence on the RSI, so there's still potential higher. Other industries in general were still quite depressed, although they took a little bit of breather yesterday. We saw that the home builders, they did bounce quite strongly, but let's see how they can actually, if they can continue. I doubt it, to say the least. We also had financials that actually seems to maybe be also finding a bit of a bottom here and could bounce a little bit. But as we can see, all the moving average pointing low. We have death cross on it, so also quite heavy there. On the overall indices and Nasdaq 100, well, it's trying to get back above 200 moving average yesterday. Didn't manage to do it. Still negative sentiment, bearish trends. And here pre-market, let's have a look at the future. It is trading up a little bit, and you can see it actually traded out also up a little bit after market yesterday, but still below 200 moving average, and we are in a bearish trend. So there's still risk to the downside, so be careful out there. Don't be careful if you're trying to bottom fishing some of the stocks out there. It could be a little bit dangerous. S&P 500 closed just above 6,500 support and goes back all the way to this correction here. So we are still in a bearish trend. It closed there on the 20s, and yesterday tried to spike back above, couldn't do it, and then slide it back. So still bearish trend and negative sentiment. We have bounced a little bit here after market, here illustrated by the future, and we tried to do it here, but still 6,655 is resistance, and then we have 6,750 as the next one. On the Dow Jones index, well, here's the future that pushed lower yesterday, but had a fairly strong session throughout. But again, it is in a bearish trend and maybe forming a little bit of a bottom here of some of the old school stocks. And that would be key to watch here in the next 2 days. There is none that springs to mind that could, really show that they are in a bouncing mode. But of course, they are also, to some extent, there are the oil industries that giving a little bit of support. The small caps, well, back above this 245 here. The 200 moving average was a little bit of a support there. As we can see, it closed there Friday just above, it spiked below, and then yesterday small caps bounced it, but I think we will see it sliding back again today unless other news will lift it. The Hang Seng index, you can see it closed below the 24,474 support. You can also argue that it was the support, but nevertheless it did close just around there. And then here in this morning in the Asian session, well, then it bounced even more or it's bounced through strongly. 24,145. There's a little bit of resistance there in this rate. I think we will see it receding a little bit later here. Or tomorrow when it opens once again. That was the CAS index. The Nikkei, also strong bounce off the support. This is the Nikkei future, just below the cloud still. Bearish trend, bearish negative sentiment. If it takes out 50,250, well, then we could be looking at 48,000. That is a possibility, but let's see. I think we'll see a little bit of range bound here. The EuroStoxx50, massive volatility yesterday, and we can see how it opened lower and then spiked even lower, just above the 5,360 support area here, and then it spiked up to 5,678, and then it sat back again. So that was, of course, with the announcement that the US might pause the bombing in Iran, but let's see how long that holds. If they can't reach an agreement, if they're even negotiating, I don't know. But a very strong bounce, and we can see here pre-market what's going on. Really, it is it's setting back. Someone have been quite volatile also here overnight. First, it bounced strongly, and then it's sitting back here again. So we are still in this depressed state. We can see what happened here with the EU50 CFD/future. It spiked down to the 138.2 projection of this correction there into this correction area here. So there's still risk to the downside, negative sentiment indicating lower levels. But let's see if it's not prone to build a bullish trend anytime soon. But maybe we could see some stabilization at least. Here we have the DAX index, open lower below the 22,000, just above the 21,722, and this gap area here back from April last year. So that will be key. Can it hold or not? So I think if we take out the lows from yesterday, we will see lower levels and also probably closing this gap here. But for now, it bounced. You can see it opened strongly and then it bounced throughout, but then until the end where it's set back. And let's have a look at what actually happened after market, and also here pre-market is set back a little bit, and now it is losing a little bit of steam. But let's see how it can do. Can it get back above 23,000? Then maybe we could see a more buying coming in. On the forex market currencies, we had the euro dollar that has bounced to the 786 retracement of this little the latest sell-off there. Still 114, that is key support. We spiked a little bit above there to 116.40. If it takes out that, well, then we could see higher levels. And what we can do, we can also try to measure it from here. Maybe we get some ideas where it could push to, and then add some Fibonacci levels to it, so we can see it actually get up to the 50% of that 21 moving average. However, we have the all moving average is slightly declining, but you can see it's flattening out, so maybe it's a little bit over. However, we do have the RSI still a negative sentiment, no divergence. So I think if it takes out the lows from yesterday, and let's add a horizontal line to it, so if it takes out the lows there at 114.80, then a downtrend is in session, and I think then we could put pressure on 114 key support. Sterling dollar, massive volatility, spiked up to just touch the 1 or 2 pips from the 134.82 resistance there, so 134.85. That is key. If it takes out that, well, then we have a completely different situation, and then we could see sterling dollar, or cable as it used to be called, but that's the old school one. Then we have some levels up here to the area around 135.75, and the upper part of the cloud. If it takes out the peak from yesterday, it could come under pressure again. We have the 100 moving average turning around there. We have RSI slowly crawling up here, but it's just around 50 threshold there. So let's see if it starts taking out the rising trend line, then I think we will see downtrend resuming, but key support there around 132. Euro sterling bounced also yesterday once again to just touch the upper part of the cloud, as you can see here. And that it seems to be too strong to penetrate, and also too strong to get up to and above the 55 moving average. So still depressed here. So I will say the range that we are looking at the moment is between 86.80 and the lows here just below 86, so 85.90. So this range it needs to break out of. However, if it takes out the lows there from a few days ago, from last week at 86.10, then I think we will see lower levels. Yen pairs, not doing much. Well, a little bit of volatility today, but dollar yen basically trading sideways here now, and that is something to look out for. 157.50 to the downside, 159.90 to the upside. So that is the range it needs to break out of. And if it does break out to the lower side, then we can add Fibonacci to that and say, all right, it is most likely to push down to the 50% maybe even, or even down to the 61.8 here at 155. But then we have the cloud support coming in there. We also have the 55 and 100 coming up, and we still have positive sentiment. So I do believe we'll see the breakout to the upper side, and then we are looking at 162 levels, level area as a target. We have the euro yen still in this sideways range here. Let's make a little bit bigger there. So still between 181.80 and 184.75.80 also. Still above the cloud, above moving averages, but negative sentiment. So let's see, we need that breakout from the range there. Aussie yen, as we talked about the past few days, that it was most likely to test the upper rising trend line, and it has done so both yesterday and this morning. Support here at 110. If it takes out that, well, then maybe we're in for a correction. However, we do have the 55 moving average coming up. They're giving some support, so let's see. Will it bounce off? But we have been in an uptrend exhaustion for quite some time, so be careful if it starts taking out these lows here, because then suddenly we could have a trend reversal of this uptrend there. So 110, 109.35. This key support area here, because then we have a trend, most likely have a trend reversal. Sterling yen tested the upper part here, the resistance there at 213 and a quarter, 213.30. If it takes it out, which it didn't yesterday, it touched it right back on it. But if it does, which I believe it will, because we are in a bullish trend, as you can see. Well, also positive sentiment on the RSI. We are above the rising trend line there, touched it a couple of times. I think we will see a push towards 215 and possibly higher if it really can get above yesterday's peak. So that would be something towards key support 210.75. On the Aussie dollar, and that maybe is also the one we have to have a look at. You see a lot of volatility yesterday, but didn't really move anywhere at the end of the day, but did spike below 69.45. So you were expecting, all right, then it will really sell off, but it didn't. So that is what you should look out for. If it takes out the lows from yesterday, then I think we will see it. But we have a little bit of support, not the strongest one, but a little bit over here at just around 68.95, so around 69. So let's see, can it bounce or will it really turn around and then sell off, and then maybe that could sink the Aussie yen also, but that is too early to call. So, but very, very volatile at the moment, of course, also due to the fact that Aussie dollar is also a bit of a commodity currency, given the fact they have all the resources they have. The dollar Canada spiked above resistance there at 137.50, 55, but set back again. So I adjusted the Fibonacci a little bit. If it takes out the lows from yesterday, especially moving below the lower part of the cloud, then I think we see a downtrend resuming, and we have the 100 moving average coming down. We have the 55 coming down, the 200 slightly rising. So, but we also above the cloud. But on the other hand, we are below the 60 threshold still. So it is a little bit of a muddy picture. Which way will it go? I think that if it takes out the peak from here this early morning, then it will continue higher. But I'm not quite sure that it would actually do that. For now, it seems like it's pushing back. However, if it takes it out, well, then there is some confliction points here at 138 where we have the 200 moving average, and I think it will pause there, but we would have established that bullish trend. If it takes out the lows there from yesterday, well, then we could see it pushing lower as mentioned. Sterling Canada, well, massive move again yesterday, opened lower here, but it seems like it has a really hard time getting away from 184.50, trying once again. I would expect it to come up in this area here, just around 185.60, but then we have all the moving average coming down there, so they're giving a hard time, still negative sentiment, but I think we will have a push here as we can see what's going on at the moment. Euro Swiss range bound basically between 91.50 and 90.40, so large range there. That is a fact. 55 moving average coming out down, putting a lid on it. We have the RSI seems to be rejected there just around the 60 at the 60 threshold, so that could be a little bit of pressure. So if it starts sliding back here throughout the day and takes out the lows there, then downtrend has resumed. The dollar Swiss also sliding back a little bit after being rejected at the 200 moving average. We have the support here that is key at 78.15, and the 55 moving average is not that strong, but nevertheless, the key one is down here at 77.45. If it takes out that, then we are back in a bearish trend. But for now, we are actually in a bullish higher high, higher low, higher high. Is it just a higher low, and then it will turn around and push higher? Well, the RSI is telling us it might be so, but for now, it is a little bit on a limbo also with the moving average coming down there. So we could be sideways range trading here in this region around 79 for a little while. The dollar index is set back yesterday, testing the rising trend line here. Actually, yesterday closed below it, just around the 786 retracement of that little uptrend there. We are in a bullish trend, as we can see, so it could merely just be a correction. Positive sentiment on the RSI still, and what I will do, and you can do the same, I will draw a trend line on the RSI. So if it crawls back above the falling trend line there, it is most likely to also get back above 60 threshold and back in positive territory. Well, it is also already showing it, but that will further confirm uptrend to resume. So let's see about that. Still key support resistance at 100.35. Gold, what a day it was, or also last week, but yesterday, massive spike down to the 200 moving average on the gold spot. More or less in the middle of this big correction area here, consolidation area here. There is still risk to the downside, I will say, so be careful that you don't bottom fish. But we did have a push lower to just around 27 level there, 25 on the RSI, and during the day it was actually much lower. So let's see, I have added Fibonacci to this sell-off there. Let's see if it can get back above 45.35. Well, then we have resistance there at 46.60. And then, of course, up here at 48.40 or 4800. But I'm not sure we will get up there. There's still downside potential, so be careful. It could slide back lower. And we can see here on the weekly what it really looks like. We have been in a massive diversion for quite some time. And what I would do if I was trading the gold spot here, look at the intraday 1 hour chart. You can see, well, really spike there, strong bounce, and then we have a bit of a flag there going on, correction phase really. So let's see what it will do. Can it break higher? So, but we are in a little bit of a correction phase. You can see there we have a little bit of falling trend line. So it needs to break above that. It's trying to do at the moment, but it needs to get back above the cloud here, back above 4,500. Then maybe it can build something short term. The silver spot also spiked lower. Didn't get all the way down to the 200 moving average, just above $60 an ounce, but still negative sentiment. There is still risk lower. However, short term, we could see it bouncing up to 72, maybe up to region between 75 and 78. And if we are looking at the intraday also here on the silver, you can see, well, massive strong bounce, then sitting back a little bit, and now it's trying to get back above the 1 hour cloud. We are trying to get the RSI back above 60 threshold, so that could be a key thing to watch. So if it moves back above 70 spot 77 or 70 spot 80, well, then maybe it could turn around and to build an uptrend, but it is too early to call. It can still slide back, so do be careful out there if you're trading the silver. Also the platinum, more or less the same picture, really spiked to just above the 200 moving average to the support here at 1732, and then bounce, and let's see what it can it bounce further. The intraday, it also looks it looks a little bit like the silver. There is a potential maybe up to the 1980, 88, sorry, 1988. Copper, that are also a bit of turmoil, but not as much, but still down to the 200 moving average, then bounced up to the 38.2 retracement and the 100 moving average. So I think that will be the range between this 560 and 524. It needs to break out for the direction. Negative sentiment indicated could be to the downside, but let's see. That will be something to watch. Let's move on to what everyone is talking about, the energy market, of course, crude oil and nat gas. So with the announcement yesterday that there will be a pause at least in the bombing, the oil, crude oil more or less collapsed, but it bounced strongly here overnight again. So it actually spiked down between, which is a little bit weird, but it did spike down to 85 to the 61.8 retracement, spiked just below 85, 84.37, then it bounced again. Still positive sentiment on the RSI, and I'm not quite sure that we are out of the woods yet with this, so be careful out there if you're trading it. There's still a lot of panic trading. We can dig into the intraday chart and so on to see what's going on, but for now it is a little bit to the bearish side. But let's have a look at Brent crude oil that actually did a bit of not a complete double top, but they have these two peaks there just below $120 a barrel. It's set back to the 61.8 retracement there at 95.66, just a few pips above it, and then bounced. And again, be careful, it could easily suddenly take off again with how things are turning out. However, if it takes out the lows from yesterday at 96 spot on, well, then we could be looking at 90 level quite fast. The European nat gas, that is highly influenced, of course, by the nat gas coming in from Qatar. Spiked to close the gap here, didn't close it. It did spike below this gap here, but we did close in the gap. So let's see what will play out today. It is bouncing a little bit to this morning. We can see it just opened here a few minutes ago, right there. So it's bouncing. If it takes out the lows from yesterday at 53.60, then well, maybe it could push down to around 45. Otherwise, there is a risk that it could bounce once again. US nat gas, really boring, just sliding lower, so not really much to talk about there. Moving on to the interest rates and the 10-year Treasury yields, well, it has set back a little bit, but it's still in a bullish trend and could push higher. And let's have a look what's going on right there. Oops, that was the wrong way. There we are. So a little bit of a setback is seen, but bullish trend and positive sentiment indicating likely higher levels. Moving on to the European, well, spiked higher here. they open higher, but then set back. So we have a little bit of correction going on. Could correct a little bit more, but we are in a bullish trend. So let's see what will happen. If it takes out the peak from yesterday, then we are most likely looking at free at 10 and maybe even free 20 up here. The UK 10 spiked much higher. Didn't get all the way up to 261.8 projection, and now sitting back a little bit, and it could sit back further. So what we could do, we could first of all we could measure from here to here, and then we have the 38.2 retracement in this cluster area here. So that will be a bit of a support in the 478 area. Japanese 10 sitting back a little bit, could sit back to 222, but it's still in a bullish trend, and I think it will resume uptrend eventually. The Bitcoin seems to be trading in a nice uptrend here. I added the rising trend line, so turning around there. If it takes out that peak there from a few days ago, well, what's that, just above 76,000, then expect to move up to around 80, and we have higher high, higher low, higher high, and higher low. So it seems like we're building an uptrend there. Same picture on the Ethereum resistance there at 2400. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and be careful out there and keep charting.